Welcome to ABA 10 Talk, a rapid-fire conversation with members of American Business Associates. I'm Ellen Volpe, and my guest today is Deb Kaminetsky. Deb, thanks for coming today.
Thanks for having me.
The one unique thing that I find very interesting about you is that you started in the law profession and find yourself now immersed in technology and project management. Why the shift? How did that happen? And what are you passionate about in terms of project management?
Okay, so we'll start way back. When I was a kid, I loved playing video games, and I wanted to major in communications, which at Michigan, which is where I went to school, was where the computer school was. And my parents thought that it was kind of a fad and wanted me to do something solid, like major in English and go to law school. So I did. I made them happy, but I always maintained my interest in all things technology. I was always learning, taking every course I could find, and eventually I started doing a lot of continuing legal presentations for bar associations and writing articles, and I was known as one of the lawyers who knew about technology. In fact, I actually just lectured at the Nassau Bar recently on project management for lawyers. So it really wasn't as much of a crazy segue as you would think. But yes, I did need to get some formal education. I had been doing projects all along. And then when I got formal education, I got my PMP, I got a certified Scrum Master, and then a Lean Six Sigma Green Belt, which sounds like a lot of letters and a lot of courses. But what I like about it is it enables me to pull from different methodologies when I'm doing a project. So I don't just have one. And the transition basically was completed. I got the trifecta of the certifications.
How do you feel the legal background helps in the work that you do?
Okay, well, couple of ways. One of them clearly is risk analysis and mitigation. It is very clear, anyone who's ever drafted or reviewed a contract, there are all sorts of contingencies in a contract. If this happens, then this is the resolution. So with project management, we like to do something called a risk register, where we look at all the different risks, and I can think of a lot of risks, and what would happen if it happened, what's the likelihood of the risk, what is the impact to the project, what is the impact to other projects or other things going on in the company, and then what are the mitigation steps that we can take for that risk. And it's often very good to involve the stakeholders, the client, to be sure that everyone's on the same page as to what will happen. And people are calmer if a risk happens than they would be otherwise if they've already acknowledged, oh, we knew this could happen and we already discussed what we would do. Another thing that's really helpful is that having been an attorney and a mediator, I'm very good at being patient with and dealing with people who are upset, irate, have different expectations, changing their expectations, all of those soft people skills. It really, really comes in handy. It doesn't faze me if somebody is not understanding. I'll explain to them a different way. People learn in different ways. So you sometimes need to give somebody a visual. Somebody else needs to be told a story. Everyone is different. But all of those things from my legal career are all really helpful in project management.
Yeah, reading the room when the derailment happens.
Yes.
You answered you answered my next question in terms of derailment, and what your experience is when that happens. You obviously are the negotiator of things gone wrong. And do you have an experience like that you can share? Is there one that stands out that surprised you and created?
I can tell you about one when I worked for another company. It wasn't my own company. A sales rep had sold a solution to a client, and the solution they sold them really wasn't possible with the environment that they actually had. So the solutions architect and I talked about different things we could do. They needed to build some more foundation in order to be able to add the solution that they had been sold. they were not happy to hear that this $120,000 project was not going to get them where they wanted to go without an additional $80,000 worth of work. And I did end up speaking to their SVP, and we explained everything. And in the end, after we had gotten the project done, they had what they had expected to have. They were happy with it. We did all the testing with them. We explained how to test, what they should look for. And they ended up giving us a 10 out of 10 CSAT and wanting to work with us again. And this was a client that was really not very happy in the beginning of the project. So I think that really just being transparent, being honest, saying, okay, we could do this for you, but I don't think you'll be happy, and this is why. People are generally not unreasonable if they understand that there's a reason, and you have to tell them the reason.
Right, right. In the world that we're living in now, things being so fast-paced, how do you handle the enormous amount of pivots that you may be confronted with in terms of a project? What is your? I mean, you seem to be, again, the negotiator, the person to explain all these details. But how do you envision all of this need for evaluating things that potentially were agreed upon that yesterday were fine, but today is different?
Well, I think I've already explained I'm a pretty good pivoter. So you have to take all the facts in front of you. Sometimes you don't have all the facts. That's the truth. Sometimes you have to be comfortable making a decision with 90% of the information, telling the stakeholder, I've got 90% of the information. I'm comfortable. Are you comfortable? If they are uncomfortable, we may have to try to get the other 10%. If they're comfortable, then we can go ahead. And the truth is, things do change. Things change, especially in technology. Things change very quickly. And it doesn't mean that the project can't happen, but you can't deliver a project as it was scoped. Let's say this is a year-long project, and during that year, something changes. There's now a new integration that didn't exist. Or sometimes it's even just there's a new software that didn't exist, or a new customization. You have to be willing to say, this project is fine, but it would be so much better if we had that other thing. Is that going to be a day 2 item? Is that something we're going to do after we're finished with this? Do you want us to finish with this portion, or do you want to just... Some people say, oh, you shouldn't quit because you're wasting, but sometimes you should. Sometimes you should say, okay, well, now this is completely not what we want, given all of this other information. Let's go ahead and scrap it. We can hold on to it and keep it in abeyance, put it on a shelf, and maybe we'll be able to use it later. But we're going to go ahead with the new thing because that's what's going to serve us best.
That was then, and this is now.
And you also need to do what I call retrospectives, where you go back and look and see, okay, what are the lessons learned here? Could we have known this was coming? What else? Did we even just gain something by the whole team working together? So was it not a complete waste? And then when we did this second phase, did we do it so much better because we already had worked together and we already knew what to expect from each other? So you try to find some, what went wrong, what went well, what you want to repeat.
Exactly. How would people get in touch with you if they'd like to connect with you?
Well, they can look at my website, which is www.defactoprojectmanagement.com. They can find me on LinkedIn. I am the only Deborah Kaminetsky on LinkedIn. Or they can call my phone number, 516-374-0074.
That's great. If you've enjoyed the conversation today and would like to learn more, visit our website at abanetworking.com. Thanks, Deb. Thanks for coming today.
Thanks so much for having me. I enjoyed it.